The last thing I remember before the hit was the green light. I was halfway through the intersection on Dorrance and Fulton, half listening to some podcast I'd already forgotten, just trying to get home before the twins' bedtime. Then, a truck blew the red and slammed into my driver's side like it had something to prove. Next thing I knew, I was strapped to a backboard with flashing lights everywhere, and paramedic Keir March leaning over me in the rig. Calm voice, quick hands, possible internal bleeding. "Hang on, Cass," I could barely speak. My chest felt like it had been peeled open, but I remember the time on his watch, 7:13 p.m. The babysitter was off at 8, and I had less than an hour to figure out who in the world was watching Della and Reese before they got left alone. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. And let's continue. Keir handed me his phone, and I called the only people who should have been automatic, my parents, straight to voicemail. Then I checked our family group chat and saw it. My mother had texted, "You've always been a burden. We've got tickets with Vesper tonight. Figure it out." I stared at it like it was in another language. Then my dad followed up. "You're used to hospitals. No question mark, no check-in, Vesper, nothing." Just a laughing emoji she dropped in after Dad's message, like this was all one big group joke. I should have thrown the phone, but I didn't. I stayed sharp. I asked Keir to screenshot the chat from my screen before the battery died. "Keep the timestamps," I said. He nodded, already pulling up the camera app like he'd done this before. Then I called a night nanny service I'd saved back when Tamsin bailed, told them it was an emergency, paid triple the going rate, gave names, allergies, routines, where the backup diapers were, all under 5 minutes. While they prepped me for surgery, I texted the sitter that someone was coming, gave her the name, the ID, the number, told her to wait. She wrote back on it with a heart. She always showed up better than my own parents. And right there on the gurney, I felt something settle in my chest. Not panic, something colder. It was the kind of quiet that comes after you stop making excuses. 8 years of being the steady one, the helper, the wallet, the good son. Done. I wasn't calling them again. The nurse adjusted my intravenous line. The anesthesiologist leaned in. I told him, "My kids are covered." That was my last clear thought before everything went black. When I was a kid, Vesper was the one they bragged about. She danced in a Christmas recital once, and Mom acted like she'd won a Tony. Dad said she had a shine. I never saw it, not really. But I got the message early. People said she drew attention wherever she went. I was the one who kept the lights paid. They called me steady. That meant they didn't look at me until something broke. After med school, I was still riding high, off matching into internal. First job, first decent paycheck. That's when Dad called. Said he needed help just this once to cover the mortgage. $2,180 a month. "It won't be a pattern," he said. I believed him. It became a pattern. 6 months later, his employer folded and he lost his health coverage. I added them to mine, $760 a month, no gap. I put it on autopay because missing it felt worse than paying it. Then came the little things. They always phrased them that way. A patch on the roof before the snow came. New tires after Mom slid on black ice. A busted water heater that wasn't safe for Vesper when she visited. The calls were never frantic. Just matter of fact. "Cass, we hate to ask." Then they asked. I adjusted my shifts and coverage like puzzle pieces, moonlighted 2 extra nights a week, traded off calls, covered the expenses, then walked into rounds like I hadn't slept in 30 hours. When Tamsin told me she wasn't staying, said touring with the band was the only way she still felt like herself. I didn't even fight her. I was already tired. I called my parents from the hospital waiting room while they were putting the intravenous line in her arm. I said, "They're coming," meaning the twins. Mom said, "Vesper needs us right now." Then she hung up. I didn't fight that either. I kept a spreadsheet. Residency trained that into me. Numbers don't have moods. The rows stayed honest even when people didn't. Over 8 years. Mortgage, $209,280. Insurance, $72,960. The emergencies, about $38,700. I added $9,800 for Vesper's launch pop-up, some boutique candle and skincare thing. She promised to pay it back when the brand lands. It never did. Dad liked to say I was good with money. Mom called me our rock when we had guests over, smiled while she said it, like I should be grateful. But behind closed doors, if I brought up boundaries or asked for a pause, she'd switch tones. "You're always so negative," she'd say. "Do you want us on the street?" I started cutting caffeine to sleep better. Didn't work. I kept answering the calls. I told myself I was strong enough to carry it. That's what sons do, right? Step up when things get hard. Be the quiet one, the dependable one. But the truth? They let me carry it because I would. That's not love. That's just gravity. By the time I woke up in post-op, my throat felt like sandpaper, and my ribs screamed when I breathed. A nurse was adjusting something on the monitor and said, "I got lucky." 4 hours, she said. "You were in and out of the OR just past midnight. Ruptured spleen, internal bleed, but you pulled through clean." I asked for water. She gave me ice chips and said I'd be sore for a while. I couldn't tell if it was the meds or the crash or just everything catching up, but I felt like someone had unplugged me from myself. The updates came on Kier's phone. He'd given the nanny service my number, and they sent photos every few hours. Della had on 2 different socks and a tutu over pajama pants. Reese had stacked every wooden block into a perfect row against the wall. There were pancakes on plastic plates, smeared with applesauce like art. Strangers had it handled. What hit hardest was how little I was needed. Not by my parents, not by Vesper. The only person who checked in besides Kier was a pharmacy auto alert for Dad's cholesterol refill, set up by me 6 months back. On the morning of day 3, I opened my laptop and stared at the tabs I hadn't touched in weeks. I went into the bank portal, no hesitation. I canceled the monthly mortgage transfer, $2,180, then stopped the health insurance premium, $760 on the dot. I didn't feel guilt. I felt air, like I'd taken off a vest I didn't know was sandbagged. Then I went into contacts and blocked them all. My mother, my father, and Vesper. No warning, no speech, just clicks. Kier came by around lunch with coffee that tasted like burnt filter paper. He sat on the windowsill and asked, "Want the screenshots printed? I'll staple the timestamps." I nodded. "Yeah, staple them. Keep it clean." That same afternoon, I got a voice note from Aunt Coraline, Cora to everyone. Her voice was clipped and low, like she was trying not to yell. She said she'd heard from Reeve, my cousin down in Bristol. Apparently Vesper had already been telling people I was unstable after the crash. Head trauma, she said. Stress-induced paranoia. Cora didn't even wait for my reaction. She just said, "I'm not playing along this time. If you want help collecting what's floating around the chats, I'll get it. You say the word." I said yes, didn't even blink. The nanny service coordinator, Marnie Quill, called that evening. She said night coverage was confirmed through Sunday, no hiccups. Her tone was calm and no nonsense, and when she said, "You rest, Dr. Vale," it was the first time I didn't flinch at the word. That night, I sat up in the hospital bed, the spreadsheet open on my chest like armor. I stared at every row, mortgage, insurance, car fixes, cash gifts, and that launch pop-up. I whispered the word, enough. Didn't need to yell it. Plain words settle better when you've finally had enough. And when they're real, they stick. 2 weeks later, I was standing at the stove flipping cinnamon toast for the twins. Della sitting cross-legged on the floor with a crayon, Reese humming to himself while stacking magnetic tiles, when I heard a knock. 3 firm taps. Not neighbor casual, deliberate. I opened the door, and there he was. Judge Thaddeus Hale, my grandfather. Long coat, gray scarf, same courtroom eyes that used to silence a room without raising his voice. He looked at me, then at the scar just peeking out from the collar of my t-shirt. Then he stepped in and hugged me, careful of the incision. "Cora told me," he said. His voice hadn't changed, still clipped, still calm. "I want you at my 84th next Saturday in Newport. The family will be there." He didn't ask if I felt up for it, just laid it out like a date on the docket. He sat at the edge of the couch and watched the twins for a solid minute. Reese showed him a blue triangle. Della held up toast like a trophy. He nodded to both, like they'd passed some unspoken test. Then he looked back at me and asked, "Do you have records?" I said, "Yeah. Transfers, insurance, everything." He nodded once. "Bring them. Facts will do the talking." That was his style. 40 years on the bench and not a single outburst I ever saw. He didn't argue. He documented. After he left, I sat down and started printing. Bank statements, arranged by month, totals on a summary page. A separate sheet for the so-called gifts to Vesper. Nothing highlighted, no arrows or red ink. Just the clean truth on white paper. Kier stopped by that evening, handed me a manila envelope full of hard copy screenshots with the date stamps from the night of the crash. "If you need me to say I saw the messages," he said, "I will." I looked him in the eye. "You sure?" He didn't flinch. That night was real. I'll say it under oath if it comes to that. Cora came by 2 days later, her arms full. Stapler, label maker, hole puncher, the whole home office kit. She didn't say much while she sorted, but when she left, she sent me 2 voice notes. "Your mother's calling cousins to get ahead of it," she said. "She's crying on command and saying she's so worried." The second note was shorter. Vesper's doing the same. Different words, same playbook. Reeve texted me a list, names, message times, who said what. She added, "They're painting you as confused, saying you cut them off for no reason." Then she forwarded screenshots with headers. I stared at the last one for a beat. My pulse didn't spike. No anger, no spin, just focus. If they wanted a story, we had the paper to end it. Newport air always felt sharper than Providence, like it expected you to stand up straight. Judge Hale's place sat back from the road, with white columns and trimmed hedges so precise they looked measured. It was the kind of house that hated sandals and loud opinions. I parked at the curb and turned in my seat to look at Della and Reese. "There will be cake," I told them, keeping my voice even. "You use your inside voices, you get a big slice." They nodded like they were taking an oath. Reese even folded his hands in his lap, dead serious. That steadied me more than it should have. Inside, a string quartet was working through old standards. Nothing flashy, just clean notes floating above quiet conversation. I stepped in and clocked the room in 5 seconds. Mom and Dad were planted by the fireplace like it was a press conference backdrop. Vesper stood near a tower of pastel macarons, dressed like the party had a camera crew. Keir was near the bar, jacket off, holding a club soda. Grandpa had made sure he got an invitation. Anyone with first-hand facts was in the building. They saw me, all 3 at once. The shift was small but obvious, shoulders tight, smiles delayed half a beat. Vesper moved first. She crossed the room with that influencer glide, arms open but not touching, air kissing somewhere near my cheek. "Oh my, Cass, you look good," she said. That accident was so scary. We were all just sick about it. I didn't match her tone. "Ruptured spleen," I said, steady and clear. 4 hours in surgery. Her smile flickered, not gone, just glitched. I moved toward the dessert table to get the twins settled. Lemon tarts, mini eclairs, the macarons stacked like a display ad. I could hear Vesper's voice carrying behind me. "We were worried about him," she said louder than necessary. "He's been under so much stress." Mom's voice followed, trembly and practiced. "He cut us off for no reason. We just don't understand what happened." Dad added a slow head shake, the silent kind that says disappointment without details. I stood 8 feet away, close enough to smell citrus sugar while they built their case. Reese tugged my sleeve and asked for juice. I handed it to him, without taking my eyes off the reflection in the glass cabinet. Cora drifted past me like she was just admiring the floral arrangement. "They called everyone all week," she murmured. "You're the villain in their movie." I nodded once. No surprise there. I pulled out my phone and texted Keir. "If needed, you can say you saw the messages." He replied almost instantly. "Say the word." I slipped the phone back into my pocket. My chest felt tight, but not from the incision. This was different, controlled. I wasn't here to argue near a dessert table. Mom dabbed at her eyes again. "We love him so much," she told an aunt I barely recognized. "We just want our son back." I adjusted Della's bow where it had slipped sideways. I kept my posture straight. I didn't step into their circle. I didn't defend myself in whispers. I waited. Grandpa hadn't taken the floor yet, and when he did, it wouldn't be a whisper. An hour before the toast, Cora made her move. She didn't say a word, just glided through the room like she was handing out place cards. A dozen relatives got one-page summaries, black text, clean layout, no italics or red ink, just dates and totals. I saw one cousin blink twice at his before folding it in half and tucking it into his jacket. The air changed around then. The quartet played through something soft, but glasses clinked with a different rhythm now. People were reading, connecting dots. The buzz dropped just enough for quiet to stretch. Grandpa stood near the fireplace, one hand resting on the chair like it was the bench. Small smile, the kind that didn't ask permission. He didn't raise his voice or tap his glass. He just said, "Let's begin," and the room fell in line. Dad stepped up first. "We've always tried to support Cassian," he said, real measured, but he's been distant since the accident. Confused, honestly. It's been hard on all of us. Mom stepped in next. She had the trembling voice loaded. We love him so much. I don't know what we did wrong. He won't even return a message. Her eyes flicked to the twins for effect. Grandpa held steady until they both finished. Then he asked, plain as rain, "Are you finished?" They nodded. He didn't even look at them when he asked, "Who's been paying your mortgage for the last 8 years?" Dad blinked. "I pay my own bills." Grandpa lifted the folder I'd handed him that morning. "Transfers to your mortgage servicer," he said, flipping a page. $2,180 per month. 96 months. He paused, letting the math sit. Mortgage total, $209,280. He turned the next page. Health insurance premiums, $760 per month. That's $72,960 over the same period. Another page flipped. Emergency home and car expenses, estimates supported by corresponding transfers, $38,700. He didn't change tone when he got to the extras. Replacement vehicle down payment, $6,500. Investment in Vesper Vale's business launch, $9,800. He closed the folder. No drama, just a slow, deliberate motion. Total in the neighborhood of $337,000, he said, approximately. He wasn't angry. He was done. Cora passed fresh copies of the spreadsheet summaries to a few more people. I caught Reeve flipping through hers fast, mouth tight. Keir stepped forward from the archway and held up the envelope of screenshots, still sealed. "If anyone needs to see the messages from the night of the accident," he said, "I've got verified timestamps. I can vouch." Grandpa took a sheet from the folder, unfolded it, and read Mom's text aloud. He didn't add tone. He didn't need to. The words punched on their own. "You've always been a burden. We've got tickets with Vesper tonight. Figure it out." That line held the room in a chokehold. Nobody moved. One cousin shifted his glass back onto the tray like he suddenly forgot why he picked it up. Then an aunt, voice low, asked, "You called him a burden while he was bleeding?" No one answered. Grandpa looked back at Mom and Dad. "How many times have you thanked him?" he asked. "Did you visit after the twins were born, drive him home after surgery, offer to cover a single bill?" Nothing, not even a blink. I felt the weight rise in my chest and finally said, "I wasn't strong to you. I was convenient." That line landed exactly where it needed to. Grandpa cleared his throat once. "We're establishing a new grant," he said. "Educational fund for great-grandchildren. Criteria, responsibility, and presence. It'll be funded annually." Then he looked at the room. Not Mom, not Dad, not Vesper. He said, "Della Vale and Reese Vale are the first beneficiaries, starting this year." He didn't call it punishment. He called it alignment. My knees almost buckled. I kept still. My parents left before dessert, didn't say goodbye, didn't make eye contact. The door shut behind them, and for the first time all evening, you could hear forks again. No one followed. No one filled the space they left behind. The next week, an invite went out for Cousin Braden's 40th. He's the one with the car detailing business in Tiverton. Group text, big energy, but my parents' names weren't on the list. Nobody made a statement. Nobody started a new chat. Folks just moved on like a branch had been quietly snapped off. Cora called a few days later. "Uncle Lowell offered them the guest house in Middletown," she said. "Month to month, utilities on them. He's not playing landlord, just offering a bridge if they're willing to stand on their own feet." I didn't ask why he did it. I knew. It was the same reason Cora slid those summaries around. Same reason Grandpa read the ledger out loud. It wasn't to hurt anyone. It was to stop the story from bending. That same morning, Reeve sent me a link. "Your childhood home just hit the MLS," she wrote. I clicked it. The pictures were recent, furniture cleared out. Listing said motivated sellers. I saved it, not for sentiment. Just to remind myself this time, they were choosing their own path. I logged into my bank portal and rerouted the $2,940 I'd been sending them every month. Set up 2 college savings accounts, 50-50 split. Della and Reese each got half. First deposits posted by the next business day. Watching those balances tick upward felt better than any screaming match could have. The numbers didn't argue back. They didn't ask for more. Vesper called crying a week later. Said a contract fell through after Newport. She didn't say which brand, just that they heard things and weren't comfortable. She sounded shaken, like she'd been slapped in a room full of people she thought were fans. I didn't gloat. I didn't tell her she earned it. You can fix your own mess, I said. Stay honest. Stop using people like vending machines. She was quiet for a beat. Then she said, I'll try. I believed her, for exactly as long as her actions proved something. Later that week, Bram Kettering dropped a six-pack on my front porch with a sticky note. Proud of you, man. Long overdue. Small gesture. Felt like someone hit reset on the cousin scoreboard. I signed a lease 5 minutes from St. Bridget. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, enough space for bunk beds and Lego mines. 12 minutes to a playground with a shaded slide and clean swings. Nights got quiet. Not empty, just quiet. No texts asking for money. No missed calls about roof leaks or check engine lights from 100 miles away. Just bedtime stories, a click of the sound machine, and the soft hum of a working dishwasher. I'd forgotten how peaceful that could be. It was a Thursday when Cora called and said, You're going to want to sit down before I send this. A few seconds later, the photos came through. An envelope with a department store logo, postmarked from 2 summers ago. Addressed to me, but mailed to Dad's old P.O. box. Then, a welcome letter with my name printed clean at the top. Balance on the account was $4,280, plus late fees and a pending collections notice. I didn't ask who opened it. I didn't need handwriting analysis. That post office box had been in his name since I was a kid. I froze my credit the same hour, set alerts, locked reports, filed the fraud complaint with the bank. I didn't post about it, didn't light up the family chat, didn't turn it into a parade. I wanted a record, not a scene. Keir pulled a string and got me in touch with a consumer attorney, someone who'd handled messes like this for doctors with too many hours and not enough bandwidth. We met on Zoom that weekend. She didn't blink at the facts, just asked for my ID scan and copies of the card application. We built the dispute packet in a single afternoon, highlighted the mismatch between the mailing address and my primary residence, included a sworn affidavit and a notarized signature page. I made it clean. I chose not to press charges as long as the bank cleared the balance and no new charges popped up. I wasn't interested in punishment. I just wanted the line cut and the current stopped. A few days later, the final crash report arrived in the mail. Beige folder, municipal seal on the corner. The driver was a city contractor. Impairment was ruled out by toxicology. Just reckless disregard. He'd been pushing the yellow and clipped me full speed. His name rang a bell. Then I checked Facebook. Sure enough, Mom had shared 3 of his posts over the past year. Bible quotes, local fundraisers, one story about fixing someone's porch for free. She'd once called him a reminder there's still good men out there. That same night, I got a text from a new number. I opened it, read it twice. Please don't make noise about the driver. His city contract is up for renewal, and people depend on him. It didn't say, are you okay? It didn't ask what the report said. It just skipped straight to damage control. I texted back, I'm following process, that's all. Short, clean, no room for tugs. A week later, she sent another message. No hearts, no exclamation points, no emojis. Just words that looked like she'd written and deleted them 3 times. I'm sorry, I was wrong. That was it. I didn't reply. I didn't forward it. I didn't even screenshot it, but I saved it. Not as ammo, not to wave around later. I saved it because it proved something. Facts move people, even an inch, even if it takes getting hit by a truck, cut open, and left to handle your own cleanup. Sometimes it still breaks through, and that's the only kind of breakthrough I needed. Tamsin Rook showed up again just as the leaves started turning. She said her last run of gigs got cut, the drummer bailed, and she needed some consistency. Her words, not mine. She added, maybe we could try again. Voice soft, like it was a song intro. I met her at a coffee shop across from St. Bridget, plain table, lukewarm tea. I didn't give her a smile or a soft landing. I just said, no again? Yes to a steady plan for the kids if you show up. She flinched but nodded. We pulled out calendars, real ones, not the emotional kind. Matched her tour routes to my call nights. No overnights at first, no big promises, just actual reps. She tried to steer it sideways a couple times. Jokes about our road trip to Philly, the dive bar where she told me she was pregnant. I cut that off fast. We're not a couple, I said. We're parents. That's the job. Keir checked in later that week. Asked if I needed a mediator, someone to make sure the co-parenting didn't go sideways. The calendar is the mediator, I told him. It'll say who's late and who shows up. That's all I need. Grandpa kept picking up the twins every Sunday like it was on the books. He brought donuts from that old Polish bakery on Hope Street, walked them through the park, told them stories from the courtroom that skipped the bloody parts. One morning, Della called him Judge Cookie by mistake. It stuck. He didn't even try to correct her. He just grinned like he'd won a case. Then, out of nowhere, Vesper sent me a text. No pitch, no filter, just a photo of a desk and a budget spreadsheet. She'd landed a part-time marketing job. No ask for money, she wrote. Just showing you I'm trying. I didn't text back, I saved it. For once it was about effort, not extraction. The fraud claim came back clean. Bank closed the card, wiped the balance. That $4,280 shadow vanished from my credit report the next cycle. I froze everything else anyway. Every account, every file, tight as a sealed vault. That week, a storm hit the coast hard. Wind shook the windows, lightning lit up the walls. But I slept straight through it. No jolts, no late-night dread. Before I drifted off, one line passed through my mind, soft but solid. Paper beats noise. 1 year from the crash, I could walk to St. Bridget in 9 minutes flat, coffee in hand, and still make preschool pickup with time to spare. I knew every sidewalk crack and shortcut. The twins liked the one with the mural of sea turtles. We called it the Turtle Way. They learned to say college fund, even if they didn't fully get it. Every time they dropped coins into the plastic jar on the shelf, money we didn't technically need, it felt like a ritual. I let them have it, let them see it grow. I paid rent, daycare, utilities, and fed both 529s each month. I didn't skip meals, didn't skip sleep. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt steady. That was enough. Pot roast Sundays with Grandpa and Cora became the one ritual I didn't break. We played cards, listened to old court stories, laughed at things we didn't have to prove. No drama, no jabs. Just adults acting like adults. Uncle Lowell told me my parents were still at his guest house. Dad stocked shelves at a hardware store in Middletown. Mom kept the books for a church thrift shop. They paid their own bills. No calls, no checks, just space. Vesper sent me a photo one afternoon from what looked like a supply closet turned into an office. No filters. Hair tied back, plain black blazer. She said thanks for telling her no. It landed different this time. Tamsin kept to the schedule for 3 months straight. Thursday handoffs, no speeches, no sudden vanishing acts. The twins started asking if she'd be there when they got out of school. That meant more than I let on. I opened the old folder every few weeks, not to get angry, but to stay grounded. The numbers still held weight. I needed to remember the cost, not the cash, but the drift I'd allowed for too long. That kind of clarity doesn't stay automatic. You have to feed it. Mom's one-line apology was still in my phone. I didn't pin it, didn't reread it, just let it sit where it landed. If the day ever came, I'd answer as a man, not a son waiting to be seen. Looking back, I should have known sooner, but knowing now still counts. I wasn't built to be a wallet or a wall. I'm a father. I'm a doctor. And I'm done paying interest on other people's comfort. The facts said what needed saying. All I had to do was live like I believed them. One last thing, what boundary would you set if facts beat guilt today? Tap hype to support. Please subscribe and like, share a comment.